You know that moment when you walk into a room and realize you don't belong?
Yeah.
That was me, standing in the middle of the Heritage Ballroom in my burgundy satin dress, holding a note card with a speech I stayed up all night writing, and not a single seat left. Not one. I'm Olivia Carter. I'm 25 years old, and for the last 6 months, I've worked harder than anyone on the university alumni committee. I designed the programs, booked the caterer, even made the playlist for tonight's fundraising gala. I know, glamorous, right? I didn't do it for praise. I did it because I love organizing, helping, making things happen behind the scenes. I'm not flashy. I don't need to be on stage. I don't need attention. At least, that's what I thought. Until I saw all of them. The committee sitting at the front tables, laughing, raising glasses, clapping for each other. And no one saved me a seat. Not my so-called friend Amanda, who I covered for when she skipped 3 meetings in a row. Not Mark, who I helped fix his messed up vendor order. Not even our president, Jennings, who said just last week, "Olivia, we couldn't do this without you." Guess they found a way. I just stood there for a moment, heart pounding, feeling ridiculous with my little note card. The words I'd carefully written, my thank you speech for the volunteers, suddenly felt stupid in my hand. So I smiled. That tight-lipped, shaky smile you wear when you're trying not to let anyone know you're crumbling inside. I slipped the card into my clutch and walked toward the back of the room. There were rows of chairs near the walls, against the catering tables where the overflow guests sat. Some were spouses, others, donors who RSVP'd late. And apparently now, me. I found a half-broken chair near the water station and lowered myself down like I was doing it on purpose, like I didn't care. But I did. I cared so much, it burned. A server passed by, offering champagne. I took one, smiled again. My mouth was dry, my chest tight. I couldn't help but glance toward the front again. Amanda leaned into the mic, her voice sugary sweet. "Let's all give a big hand to our planning committee, especially Mark, for organizing the dessert bar. Didn't he do an amazing job?" People clapped. Mark raised his glass like he just cured cancer. No one mentioned me, not once. And that's when it hit me. They never planned to. They weren't going to call me up for a speech. They weren't going to thank me. They were going to let the whole night go by pretending I didn't exist. I sat there frozen, staring at Amanda on that stage with her rhinestone clip-on earrings and fake laugh. And I realized something that shook me more than anything. This wasn't an accident. They knew what they were doing. I wasn't just forgotten. I was excluded, intentionally. And I guess I'd been too busy working, too eager to help, to notice that I was never really part of their group. I was useful, reliable, invisible. The good girl behind the curtain. I thought about leaving, just walking out, tossing my note card in the trash, going home, and pretending none of this ever happened. But I didn't, because the longer I sat there, the more a new feeling started to rise in me. Not sadness, anger, and not the loud, screaming kind, the cold kind, the kind that sits still and watches, the kind that whispers, if they won't give you a seat, maybe it's time you take the mic instead. I watched as Amanda invited the donors to the front, then Mark talked about their future plans, then Doc Jennings gave his boring, long-winded remarks about alumni engagement, and then the closing. Amanda stepped back up, beaming. "Before we end tonight, we just want to thank everyone who helped bring this evening together. No names, no real thank yous, just fluff. Closure." And then she said, "The mic is open if anyone wants to share a few words of gratitude before we close the night." She said it like a joke, like no one actually would. But I stood up. I didn't even think. My body just moved. I was already walking toward the front when people started to turn their heads. I heard whispers. Someone from the finance team smiled at me politely. Another girl from events nudged her friend. I walked past their tables, past Amanda, past Mark, past the row of pretty privileged faces, and stepped onto the stage. I took the mic. The lights were warm and harsh. My hands were shaking, but I pressed my note card flat against the podium and cleared my throat. "Hi," I said. "I'm Olivia Carter." The room quieted. I helped plan this event. I worked on the venue, the seating chart, the menus, the invitations. I stopped. Well, all of it, actually. A few awkward chuckles. I wasn't smiling anymore. And I want to say something, not because I was invited to, not because I was given the floor, but because I earned it. People shifted in their seats. Amanda's eyes narrowed. Mark looked like he was trying not to smirk. I want to thank the volunteers. Not the ones with fancy name tags or reserved seats, but the ones who showed up early, stayed late, and did the work no one else wanted to do. The ones who stapled packets, and arranged chairs, and carried boxes in heels. My voice got stronger. I want to thank the people who are never thanked, because I've learned something tonight. You can give your time, your effort, your energy, and still be treated like background noise. Now, the silence was loud, but we're not noise. We are the rhythm, the reason this place runs. And if you think you can silence someone just by not saving them a seat, I paused, breathing in the heat of the spotlight. Then maybe you've forgotten what happens when the quiet ones pick up the mic. And with that, I stepped down. The room stayed silent for a full beat. Then, scattered claps. A few people stood. A few looked away. But it didn't matter. I didn't need a standing ovation. I just needed that moment. The one where I reminded them and myself that I wasn't invisible. I was present, and I was done being polite about it. I walk off the stage, and for a moment it feels like the air is thicker, like I'm underwater and everyone's watching me swim to the surface. Some people clap, a few stand, a lot just stare. Amanda looks like she's sucking on a lemon. Mark turns toward the bar like I don't even exist. Jennings fidgets with his watch, refusing to meet my eyes. I keep walking. I head straight out of the ballroom, down the hallway, and into the nearest bathroom. I lean against the counter, clutching the edges of the sink. My heart is still pounding. My cheeks are flushed. My throat is dry. I just did that. I just did that. A mix of emotions washes over me. Relief, pride, a little bit of panic, but mostly I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Power. Not the kind that comes with titles or invitations. Not the kind that needs approval. The kind that comes from speaking when they expect you to stay quiet. I splash cold water on my face, dry my hands, and stare at my reflection. I don't even recognize the girl in the mirror, but I like her. She looks like someone who won't be overlooked again. When I walk back into the ballroom, things feel different. People glance at me. Some smile with that half-impressed, half-awkward expression. One woman I barely know, Rebecca from marketing, gives me a thumbs up and mouths that was amazing. I nod politely, but I don't stop walking. I'm not staying for dessert. I don't need to. The next morning, my phone is already buzzing before I open my eyes. Texts, emails, a couple of missed calls. Apparently, someone recorded my speech and posted it and tagged me. I open the video and see myself on stage, back straight, eyes fierce. My voice is shaking just slightly in the beginning, but by the end, I sound sure, solid, loud in all the right ways. The comments are wild. She said what all of us have been too afraid to say. This is what leadership looks like. No more quiet girls doing invisible work. Olivia, we see you. There are dozens, then hundreds. My Instagram DMs are flooded. A few former classmates I haven't heard from in years send supportive messages. One of them even says, "I always knew you were a force. They just weren't ready." And then, Amanda texts me. Amanda, "Hey Olivia, can we talk?" No apology, no acknowledgement of what she did, just those 4 words. I don't respond, not yet. Instead, I open my laptop and begin writing. Not another speech, just my thought. I pour everything out. How it felt to be excluded, how often I've been passed over, how many hours I've spent working behind the scenes while others took credit. I write until my fingers hurt, until the lump in my throat dissolves into clarity. And then, without thinking too hard, I hit post. The blog goes live. They didn't save me a seat, so I took the stage. That's what I call it. I wasn't trying to start anything. I just wanted to tell the truth, but within an hour, it's shared over 1,000 times, and by lunchtime, I get a call from the Empowerment Collective, a nonprofit I admire that works with women in leadership. They want to interview me for their newsletter. By the end of the day, someone from Her Story Weekly reaches out for a quote. Suddenly, the girl who was too quiet to be thanked is the girl whose story everyone wants to hear. Amanda doesn't like that. 3 days later, I get another text. Amanda, this is getting out of hand. You could have handled this privately. Now, I laugh, actually laugh. Handled it privately? She handled me privately for months. Tucked me behind the curtain while she soaked up the spotlight. And now that I'm finally standing where she never wanted me, suddenly, I'm the problem? No. I leave her on rid. Instead, I meet with the woman from the Empowerment Collective. Her name is Julia. She's warm, sharp, and speaks with the kind of confidence I've always admired in others but never allowed in myself. She says, Olivia, your story hit a nerve because it's not just your story, it's all of ours. I nod, holding back tears. She gets it. Really gets it. By the time we wrap up, she says, have you ever considered speaking at one of our panels? We're doing a Quiet Women Loud Voices event next month. I blink. Me? Like, as a speaker? Yes, you'd be perfect. I almost say no. Out of habit. Out of fear. But then I remember what it felt like to hold that mic. And I say I'd be honored. Over the next 2 weeks, things change fast. My blog post reaches 100,000 views. People start messaging me for advice. A local podcast asks me to come on. And in the middle of it all, Amanda sends one last message. Amanda, you've made your point, but you're hurting our reputation. If you care about this organization, you'll stop. That's when I realize she doesn't care about me. She never did. She cares about control, about appearances. She thought I was safe to push around because I never pushed back. But I'm not that girl anymore. So I type out one final reply. Me. I cared for months, Amanda. While I stayed up late planning, while I fixed your mistakes, while I waited to be seen. But now, I care about telling the truth, not protecting the people who erased me. And then I block her. On the day of the panel, I wear the same burgundy satin dress I wore to the gala. Not out of spite, but because that dress has become my symbol. The one I wore the night I stopped apologizing for taking up space. The event is in a small auditorium with fairy lights strung across the back wall, and rows of folding chairs, filled with women of all ages. When they introduce me, I walk on stage without fear. I tell my story. And this time, I don't need a mic to feel powerful. I already know who I am. Not the girl who was forgotten, not the woman they dismissed, but the one who turned silence into a stage and made sure everyone heard her. You ever have something good happen, and your first instinct is to doubt it? Like, you look around, waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, sorry, this wasn't meant for you. That's how I feel the day I open the email from Rachel Cormier. Rachel is the editor-in-chief of a major women's publication. Not a blog, not a local newsletter, a real, printed, glossy-covered national magazine that sits on newsstands across the country. The subject line says, "We'd love to feature your story." I read it 3 times before I believe it. Apparently, someone forwarded my blog post to her. She read it, then she watched the video, and now she wants to do a full feature. Me, Olivia Carter, the girl who wasn't important enough for a chair. I sink onto my couch, my heart racing in that buzzing, can't breathe kind of way. It's not nerves. It's something bigger, something deeper. This is happening. This is really happening. I call my mom. She screams so loud I have to pull the phone away from my ear. My older brother texts me a string of clapping emojis and says, "Told you they'd regret it." But strangely, the one person I don't hear from is Amanda. She's been silent since I blocked her, and yet, I know she sees everything. She's watching, probably grinding her teeth every time someone tags me in a new interview clip or reposts my blog. But I don't care. Not anymore. Because something's shifting in me. and I can feel it in my bones. I'm not the background girl anymore. I'm the one in focus now. The photo shoot is scheduled for the following week. They want it to be authentic and empowering, so they ask me to bring an item that symbolizes my turning point. I don't even hesitate. I bring the not the actual one from the gala, but a replica I found online. Same silver grill, same black handle. It's not about the mic itself, it's what it represents. The moment I stopped waiting for permission and spoke anyway. At the studio, I meet the photographer, Lila. She's warm and funny and asks me to pose holding the mic while sitting in a chair. An obvious metaphor, but I smile at the symbolism. We do a second setup, me standing, facing the camera directly, mic in one hand, the other resting casually in my pocket. And when I see the test shot, something in me clicks. I look powerful, not flashy, not intimidating, just certain, like someone who knows who she is now. After the shoot, I sit with Rachel for the interview. She's poised and professional, but there's real kindness in her eyes. She asks thoughtful questions, not just about the gala night, but about the why behind it all. Why do you think so many women stay quiet in spaces where they should be heard? She asks. I think for a moment, then answer, because we're taught to be grateful for being allowed in the room at all. We think if we speak up, we'll lose the little space we were given. She nods. But you took more than space. You took agency. That's rare. I smile, a little shy. I didn't know I had it. Not until I had nothing left to lose. She writes something down in her notebook, then looks up and says, "That's the line we'll use." And just like that, it becomes the pull quote for the article. I didn't know I had power until I had nothing left to lose. Olivia Carter. The article goes live a week later. Within hours, it's everywhere. People are reposting it, quoting it, sharing their own stories of being silenced, overlooked, underestimated. Some of the comments make me cry. Others make me angry all over again, because so many of us have lived through this in different forms. And then something happens that I never expected. I get a call from the university. Not Amanda, not Mark, not even Dr. Jennings, but someone new. Jordan Reeves, the incoming alumni board president. He says, "Olivia, I've read your blog. I saw your speech, and I just want to say thank you." I wait for the but it doesn't come. Instead, he says, "We're restructuring the alumni committee, and I'd love to invite you to join the advisory board." Paid, full voice, real seat. I blink, stunned. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. You've started a conversation we should have been having years ago." And for the first time, I believe him. Because this isn't a pity offer. It's not damage control. It's respect. Earned. Deserved. Real. I tell him I'll think about it. Because now, I choose where I sit. A few days later, I get an email from someone unexpected. Not Amanda. Her mom. She writes, "Dear Olivia, I don't know if this will matter to you, but I just want to say, I'm sorry. I had no idea what Amanda did until I read your blog. You didn't deserve that. I hope you continue to speak, because you're changing lives. Sincerely, Linda Hall." It's short, sincere, and strange how the people around Amanda are starting to see me more clearly than she ever did. I don't reply. I don't need to. Some things don't need to be reopened. Some people don't need to be invited back in. I'm not doing this for her, or for the apology I'll probably never get. I'm doing it for the girl I used to be, the one who sat in the back of that ballroom, heart pounding, wondering if she mattered. She does. I do. And that's enough. The final surprise of the month comes in the form of a direct message on Instagram. It's from Elena Torres, a well-known TEDx curator. "Hi Olivia. I saw your story in the magazine and would love to talk to you about a possible speaking slot at our upcoming event. Your voice is needed." I stare at the screen, jaw dropped. A TEDx talk? From being excluded at a university gala to being invited to speak on a national platform, I let the moment wash over me. Then I text back, "Yes, I'm ready." And for once, I don't even second guess it. By the end of that week, I'm sitting in my apartment, watching the sun go down, journal open on my lap. I flip back through old entries, ones filled with self-doubt, quiet hopes, tiny disappointments I never told anyone about. And I realize something. This journey wasn't about revenge, it was about recognition. I didn't burn bridges. I built a stage. And now I'm standing on it. Not because someone gave me permission, but because I claimed it. And I'll never let anyone push me into the background again. Not ever. There's something surreal about writing a TEDx talk in the same bedroom you used to cry in. I'm sitting cross-legged on my bed, hair up in a messy bun, surrounded by post-it notes and a half-empty mug of tea. On one note, I've scribbled, "You don't have to wait for a seat when your voice builds its own table." I stare at it. It's not just a line. It's everything. Since the article came out, and since Jordan from the university offered me a seat on the advisory board, I've been in this odd space between who I was and who I'm becoming. People treat me differently now. They see me. They invite me in. They listen when I speak. But it still doesn't feel real. I keep thinking about that night in the ballroom. How I almost didn't speak. How I almost walked out without ever saying a word. That version of me, the one in heels clutching a folded note card, still lives inside me, and she deserves to be heard. That's what this talk is going to be about. Not the mic, not the chair, not Amanda, but the moment after. The moment you realize you don't need permission anymore. My TEDx talk is scheduled for next month. It's in Denver, a 2-hour flight and a leap across every fear I've ever had about public speaking. I practice every day, in front of the mirror, on the couch, in my car, sometimes even in the shower. My voice goes hoarse, but I keep practicing, because this moment, this stage, matters more than any gala, any magazine, any applause. This one's mine. The title of the talk? The Power of the Uninvited Voice, because that's what I was, uninvited, unacknowledged, and now, unafraid. 2 weeks before the event, I get a notification on LinkedIn. "Amanda Hall viewed your profile." Of course she did. Part of me feels smug. Another part, if I'm honest, still flinch. Even after everything, there's a shadow she casts. It's not that I want her approval, it's just, I remember how much I used to. And sometimes the ghost of that still stings. Later that night, I check my email. Subject line. Hi Olivia. It's been a while. It's from Amanda. I don't open it right away. I stare at it. Walk away. Come back. Then finally I click. "Hi Olivia. I don't really know how to start this. I've rewritten this email 3 times already. I saw your article. I saw the TEDx announcement. And I guess I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I never realized how invisible I made you feel. I thought I was just being efficient, delegating things. I see now that I took credit for your work. I was wrong. And I regret how I treated you that night. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to acknowledge it. You didn't deserve that." Amanda. I sit back in my chair, exhaling slowly. It's a decent apology. Better than I expected. There's no excuse in it. No spin. But here's the thing. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't change the months I spent waiting to be seen. But it does feel like a door finally closing. And that's enough. I don't write back, because there's nothing more to say. The day of the TEDx talk arrives. And I barely sleep the night before. I pace the hotel room, like I'm preparing for battle. Hair curled. Mic clipped. Heart hammering like a drum. Backstage. The lights are blinding, and the voices muffled. The speaker before me wraps up, and someone whispers in my ear, "You're next." I step into the wings, gripping my notes, not because I'll need them, but because they remind me of every version of myself that got me here. The girl who stayed late to set up tables, the woman who stood in silence when her name was skipped, the one who finally stepped forward, not because someone asked her to, but because she had to. They call my name. I walk out to applause. Polite at first, then warmer. I reach the red circle on stage, center myself, and look out into the crowd. 100 faces, bright lights, and one story that needs to be told. I begin. My name is Olivia Carter, and I wasn't supposed to be here. Not in the poetic way. I mean literally. I wasn't on the list. I wasn't given a seat. I wasn't offered the mic. But I took it anyway. Because sometimes the moment you've been waiting for doesn't come, so you make it. As I speak, something shifts in the room. People lean in, some nod, a few smile softly. I tell them about the ballroom, the missing seat, the silence, the fire that followed. I tell them about the blog, the messages from strangers, the realization that I wasn't alone in feeling invisible. And then I say, we spend so much time trying to be invited, to be liked, to be picked, to be chosen. But here's the truth. You don't need their invitation to start something real. You don't need a seat to speak. You just need the courage to stand. By the time I step off stage, the applause is thunderous. People stand. Some cheer. A woman in the front row wipes her eyes. Backstage, a young woman with braids and a navy blazer grabs my hand. "Thank you," she says. "That speech? It was like you were talking to me." I squeeze her hand back. I was. That night, I lie in bed in my hotel room, still in my dress, staring at the ceiling. And for the first time in months, maybe in years, I feel weightless. I'm not chasing recognition anymore. I've already arrived. It's been 2 weeks since the TEDx talk, and I still wake up every morning with that same flutter in my chest. Not anxiety. Not anymore. It's something else. Something lighter. Hope. I keep thinking the high will wear off, that the world will forget, that the applause will fade. But something's different this time. People don't just remember, they respond. My inbox fills up daily. Messages from women across the country, college students, corporate managers, stay-at-home moms, all saying the same thing in different ways. I saw myself in your story. I've been quiet for too long. I finally said something I've been holding in for years. One woman, Lisa, writes, I watched your talk with my teenage daughter. When it ended, she said, "Mom, she sounds like you, except braver." That broke me. And then, it healed me. Thank you. I read that one 3 times. Sometimes I still can't believe this all started because someone didn't save me a seat. But I guess that's the thing about being dismissed. It lights a fire in you. And if you're lucky enough, you learn how to turn that fire into something useful. I'm back home now, sipping coffee in my tiny kitchen, when I get a call from Jordan Reeves, the new alumni board president. Olivia, he says, his voice warm and upbeat. Are you sitting down? I laugh. Should I be? Maybe. So we've been watching what you're doing. The talk, the interviews, the blog, and we think there's something bigger here. I raise an eyebrow, already intrigued. Go on, he continues. The university wants to launch a Women in Leadership initiative. Panels, mentorships, workshops, the whole thing. But we don't want a figurehead. We want someone who's lived it. Someone with vision. I pause, breath catching. He doesn't say it, but I know where this is going. Olivia, he says, we want you to lead it. There it is, the seat I was never given, now fully offered. No strings, no performative tokenism, a real seat, and this time, with a title. I say yes before I even finish my coffee. Because this time, I get to build the table. A month later, we hold the first planning session. I walk into the boardroom in a blazer I bought with my first speaker's check. Not flashy, just tailored and strong. The kind that says, I know what I'm doing, even if I'm still figuring it out. Around the table are 10 women, some older than me, some younger, different races, different paths, all with that same flicker in their eyes, the one I've come to recognize. The flicker of someone who's ready. I start the meeting by saying, we've all been left out of something we helped build. This space, we're building it for us, and the next girl who's about to be overlooked. There are nods, small smiles, a quiet kind of strength that fills the room like sunlight. By the time the meeting ends, we've sketched out the first event, voices unmuted, a forum for women who were told to stay quiet. It'll be open to students, alumni, even the public. And this time, every seat will be reserved by name. No one will be forgotten. Not on my watch. The momentum doesn't slow. A local school invites me to speak to a group of high school girls. One of them, no older than 16, raises her hand and asks, "What if people call you dramatic just for standing up for yourself?" I take a breath and meet her gaze. I say, "Then you say thank you, because dramatic just means they weren't ready for your honesty." She nods, and I swear I see her spine straighten a little. That's all it takes sometimes. A single sentence to plant a new truth, and that's when it really hits me. I'm not just speaking anymore, I'm passing it on. The weekend before our first Voices Unmuted event, I stopped by the old university building where everything started. The ballroom, it's empty now, tables stacked, chairs lined along the wall. I walk to the center of the room and close my eyes. I can still see it. The night of the gala, the blank stare when I asked where my seat was, the burn in my chest, the decision to rise instead of retreat. I whisper to no one in particular, "You didn't stop me. You just lit the match." Then I turn around and walk out, one step steadier than before. The day of the forum arrives. I'm pacing backstage, holding a copy of my opening remarks. The room is packed, more than we expected. They had to bring in extra chairs. I peek through the curtain and see her, Amanda. She's sitting in the second row, beside a few other alumni. Her hands are folded neatly in her lap. She looks nervous, or maybe just unsure. I didn't invite her, but I didn't block her either. People grow, sometimes, and maybe, just maybe, she came to listen. Either way, it doesn't matter. This moment is mine. I walk out onto the stage. No red carpet this time. No microphone clipped to a fancy collar. Just me, a handheld mic, and a room full of women who've been told they're too much, too loud, too angry, too honest. I say, if you've ever been told to wait your turn, this is your turn. If you've ever been skipped, this is your seat. And if you've ever felt invisible, we see you now. There's applause. And not the polite kind, the real kind. Amanda claps too. But my eyes are on the girls in the back row, the ones who arrived late, flustered, unsure. They're who I came for. After the panel, one of the students comes up to me, eyes wide, notebook in hand. "You probably don't remember me," she says, "but I volunteered at the gala the night you gave that speech. You were the only reason I stayed." I blink. I do remember her. She was wearing a black turtleneck and carrying a clipboard. She'd looked terrified. Now, she looks alive. "I'm applying to law school," she says. "I just thought you should know." I hug her without thinking, because this is what it's about. The ripple, the quiet, becoming thunder. Later that night, as I pack up and turn off the lights, Amanda approaches me. Her voice is quiet. "Olivia." I turn, waiting. She says, "I meant what I wrote. And this, what you've built, it's incredible." I nod. "Thank you." She hesitates. "I know I wasn't kind to you." "You weren't," I say, calmly. No venom, just truth. She bites her lip. "I hope one day we can rebuild." I pause, thinking. Then say, "Maybe, but you don't get to walk back into a seat you abandoned. You start at the door, like the rest of us." She nods slowly. Fair enough. That night, I get home and kick off my heel. I curl into the corner of my couch with a blanket and a notebook. I jot down 3 words. Build the table. That's what I want next. Workshops, mentorship programs, scholarships, a foundation, something that lasts longer than applause. Because stories are powerful, but systems are permanent. And I'm ready to make both. It's one thing to tell your story. It's another to create space for everyone else's. After the first forum, word spreads fast. Emails flood in from women, not just from the university, but across the country. Some want to share. Some want to help. Some just want to be seen. It starts with one event, then 3, then 10. Within 6 months, Voices Unmuted turns into something I never saw coming, a movement. We set up a nonprofit, we form a board, we file paperwork, raise funds, launch a website, people volunteer, people donate, women from all walks of life show up, hungry to speak and be heard. And somehow, I go from the girl who was forgotten to the founder of a national platform. It should feel amazing. And some days it does. But then come the days that remind me not everyone wants you to grow beyond their expectations. The pushback starts quietly. A trustee from the university sends a concerned message to the alumni board. Is this organization officially affiliated with the school? Should we be giving her a platform when she's been publicly critical of our event planning? And just like that, the whispers begin. I hear things through back channels. Someone says I'm too aggressive. Another calls me emotional. One even suggests I'm building a personal brand on victimhood. It stings, because it's so familiar. The same language they used to ignore me before, but now I know what that language really means. It means I'm making noise they can't control. And for the first time, I don't shrink, I speak louder. We host a panel at a national conference that fall. Hundreds attend. Our theme: when being difficult is the only way to be heard. I open the session with a story, not mine this time, but one from a woman named Kennedy. She's a teacher from North Carolina who was pushed out of her job after reporting harassment. They told her she was too sensitive, I say into the mic. But what she really was done staying quiet. The crowd snaps, cheers, stands. Afterward, a woman from the audience stops me. I was afraid to tell the truth at my job, she says. Now I know I'm not crazy. And I think, this is it. This is the real work. Not clapping, not fame, liberation. Back home, I get a phone call from Jordan. His voice is tight. There's going to be a vote next week, he said. I sit up straighter. What kind of vote? They're reviewing your position on the advisory board. Some members think you're creating too much attention. I laugh, bitter. Isn't that what they wanted 6 months ago? Some of them never wanted you there to begin with. He admits, my stomach knot. And you? I'm with you, but I'm one vote. It's quiet on the line. Then I ask the question I've been avoiding. Am I being punished for speaking too loud? He hesitates. No, you're being punished for not asking permission first. There it is. The truth I knew was coming. They want their inspiration manageable, their change palatable, their women grateful, but I've outgrown their comfort, and I won't apologize for that. The night before the vote, I write a letter. Not a plea, not this time. A statement. I send it to every board member. You don't need to keep me on the board to silence me. You can vote me out. You can strip the title. But what you can't do is erase what I've already built. And what's coming next doesn't need your approval. I end it with a simple line. You didn't give me a seat. You can't take the stage I built. They vote. They remove me. Official reason? Conflict of interest between personal advocacy and institutional values. Unofficial reason? I got too big for the seat they forgot to save. And this time, I laugh. Not out of bitterness, but because I finally understand. You only scare them when you stop needing them. 2 days later, a local news station reaches out. They want to cover the story. I say yes. The headline reads, "From overlooked to overheard. The woman they couldn't shut down." I sit on camera, legs crossed, voice steady. They ask, "What do you say to people who claim you're being divisive?" I smile. I'm not dividing. I'm exposing what was already broken. If that makes people uncomfortable, good. The interview airs that weekend, and then something unexpected happens. Other women who've been removed from boards, jobs, and panels start reaching out. They said I was too outspoken. They said I was bad for PR. They called me ungrateful. The stories pour in, and I realize I've struck a nerve deeper than I knew. So I do what I always do. I give them the mic. We launch a podcast. Every episode tells a story, a woman silenced, then unleashed. We call it No Seat, No Problem. The first episode gets 20,000 downloads. By the third episode, we're featured on Spotify's New and Notworthy, By the 5th, we're invited to speak at another national conference. And when the organizers ask who should close the event, they don't suggest a university trustee. They don't ask for Amanda, they ask for me. Backstage before the closing keynote, I take a deep breath. This time, it's not nerves, it's peace. I walk out to the stage and look at the crowd. Hundreds of women, standing, cheering, and I say, they told me I was too loud, too emotional, too difficult. And they were right, because difficult women change the world. Because emotions are not weakness. And because silence was never going to save us. I hold for a beat, then finish. So if they don't save you a seat, build a stage and light it up. After the event, I get in the elevator and pull out my phone. A text from Jordan waits. They're regretting the vote. Just so you know. I smile and reply, I'm not. Because I've built something they can't uninvite me from. And the truth is, their seat was never big enough for who I was becoming. Success is loud. But peace? Peace is quiet. It's been a year since the vote. A year since the university board kicked me out for being too much. And a year since Voices Unmuted went national. I've done interviews, podcasts, conferences, and morning shows. I've met women I used to look up to, and women who now look up to me. My face has been on flyers and magazine covers. My voice has traveled farther than I ever imagined. And now, I'm tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, but the kind that comes from constantly proving you belong in rooms that were never built for you. So I take a step back, not forever, just long enough to breathe. I move into a small lake house 2 hours outside the city. Nothing fancy, just trees, water, silence. A place where I can hear my own thoughts again. Not applause, not opinion, not pushback, just me. I plant flowers in the morning. I journal on the porch. I make dinner without checking emails. It's the most invisible I've been since the gala, and it feels good. Because this time, it's my choice. I'm not hiding. I'm healing. But even in the quiet, the world keeps spinning. One night, I check my inbox just to see what's come in. There's a message from Kennedy, the teacher whose story I shared at our first big event. Olivia, we just had our biggest turnout yet. 800 women in Dallas showed up for the panel last week. A girl walked up crying afterward. She said she stopped herself from dropping out of school because of something she heard on your podcast. You're not here, but you are. Just thought you should know. I sit with that message for a while, read it twice, then close the laptop. Because I do know, I didn't just take the stage. I left the mic behind. 3 months into my retreat, I get a letter in the mail, a real letter, stamped, handwritten. It's from Amanda. The envelope is soft pink, the ink neat and curved. Dear Olivia, I saw the interview you did last month, the one where you talked about peace over power. I thought about you a lot afterward. I wanted you to know I've stepped down from the alumni board. I realized I was holding on to control because I was afraid of being irrelevant. Watching you lead without needing permission made me see how small I'd been. I'm working on myself, slowly, quietly. Thank you for showing me what real leadership looks like. Always, Amanda. I don't know how to feel, grateful, vindicated, confused. In the end, I just feel still, because this is how the story was always meant to end. Not with revenge, but with reflection. 6 months later, Voices Unmuted gets invited to the White House. They're recognizing national nonprofits that uplift women's voices. I'm offered the keynote slot. Again, but this time, I don't accept. I recommend Kennedy instead. She calls me, crying when she finds out. You built this, she says. You should be the one speaking. But I just smile and say, I was the voice. Now I'm the echo. She doesn't understand it yet, but she will. On the day of the White House event, I sit on my porch in jeans and a hoodie, watching the live stream from my tablet. Kennedy steps onto the podium in a blue blazer. She's nervous. I can tell by how she sways, but then she locks eyes with the camera and takes a breath. I'm here because one woman decided being uninvited wasn't the end of her story, and because of her, I found mine. The room applauds. And I close my eyes and let the sound wash over me. It's not for me anymore. It's because of me. That's better. A few weeks later, I get a call from a publishing house in New York. They want to turn the Voices Unmuted story into a book, not a memoir. A collection, stories from women across the country, the quiet ones, the brave ones, the too much and the not enough, all of them. They want me to write the introduction. Just one chapter, one voice, to open the door. I say yes, because some doors, they're meant to be held open. The book comes out 6 months later. It's called No Seat Needed, 100 Women Who Spoke Anyway. It becomes a national bestseller. And at every signing, every reading, every library event, women look me in the eye and say, "You told my story before I even had the words for it." And I tell them, "Now you get to tell it yourself." On the anniversary of the gala, I visit the university. It's different now. The event is held in a new hall, one named after a woman who was one of the first Black professors on campus. Her portrait hangs in the entrance. And this time, my name is on the invitation, front and center. They even asked me to give a short speech. I almost declined. But then I thought, no, let them see me. Let her see me. The version of me who stood there that night holding a folded speech with no place to sit. Let her see how far we've come. When I step on stage, it's not about revenge. Not anymore. It's about reclaiming the story. So I say, a few years ago, I stood in a room like this and realized something painful. I was invisible to the people I worked beside. And in that moment, I made a choice. Not just to be seen, but to see others who felt the same. Because sometimes you don't need a bigger stage. You need to stop waiting and start building. I end with this. To the ones still waiting for your seat, this is it. It's yours. Take it. And I walk off, head high. Story complete. A week later, I'm back at the lake house. I sit in my quiet kitchen, tea steaming beside my laptop. There's a knock at the door. When I open it, there's no one there. Just a package on the porch. It's from the nonprofit team. Inside is a wooden chair, hand-painted with flowers. Across the backrest, in bold white letters, it says, "You didn't need this, but you built it anyway." I smile, not because I need the chair, but because I finally know the truth. I never needed their seat. I was always the stage.